Hello everybody, what is up? Cobra Axis and Allies here, bringing to you another painted review. Now, as you saw from the thumbnail, we're going to be going over some newly painted French units for Global War 1936, along with some other various nations. So I guess first up, let's just start with the French. So first we got this nice new French Richelieu class battleship. These things are probably one of my favorite battleship sculpts, just because they look so, they're large and imposing, and they look very cool with their quadruple main guns in the front. You can see I did a pretty good job at getting the actual barrels on by using a thin brush to paint the little black spots in between the barrels. And then going with the rest of my French theme, they've got these blue hulls with a metallic silver superstructure, and I went with a white dry brush just to bring out the edges a little bit more. But again, you can see the detail I've captured on these with like the rear guns in the back there, all the little smaller armament and everything. You can see when it's darker, all the little smaller guns are in a lighter color. It's a little hard to pick up here, but yeah. And then just a little French flag in the front of it, because the French were known to put their flags on top of the turrets. And we've got a total of 3 of these, and those will be the starting French battleships, because France starts with 2 and 1 on the build chart. So we've got a nice full lineup of new French battleships. So next up we've got the French aircraft, or these are going to be escort carriers. So these are of course the Bern class carrier. Now, I painted up a few of these. Of course, France never really buys aircraft carriers, as many of you know. They don't really have the time to do so, but I decided to paint these up anyways. And I am thinking about adding a French aircraft or a light carrier to the starting setup, just because I know that it was a terrible carrier and there was only one of them, but France did have an aircraft carrier, and I thought it would be kind of fun to show that off by putting it in game. And of course, it would be balanced in the sense of, for one, it's one French aircraft carrier, and the fact that France, all of its naval units are going to roll for alignment. It could go to Germany, which would be kind of a cool concept to see. It could also go to France, which would also be a cool concept, but at the same time, the Free French don't really have a large air force, so, it wouldn't find super huge use as a effective Free French unit, but I definitely am thinking about adding one of those to my next game setup, just because. But we do have 3 of those, so, again, probably not going to see these on the board that often, but there's 3 because I got the pack of 5, so, yeah. Next up, we have the French cruiser, or heavy cruiser. This is the Suffren class. Again, a very nice looking sculpt in general. I really like the height of this thing, the length of it, it's really nice. You can see we got the French flags, the yellow tip on the front of the ship. All the little lifeboats on the back of the thing, along with the little silver metallic aircraft carrying catapults. So yeah, another nice looking ship. I really like those. And we've got a lineup of 4 of them, which is again very nice to have. I can't remember which game it was, but I do remember a time when, because I've just painted up my Global 1940 pieces for France, which included those Russian sculpts basically, and there was only 2 cruisers, and I remember painting those up, and usually I don't have a problem, but I do remember there was a time when, I think it was like France got a cruiser, or maybe they built one, but only having 2 which start on the board, it was, we didn't have another cruiser to give the French, so it's good now having enough to do whatever the French player wants to do with them. So I guess keeping with France, we've got some new French Air Force, because I was done with dealing with those little Russian planes. So, and also I really like the French fighters that HBG made. I don't know the actual model, but as you can see, we've got the cool French camouflage scheme I've got on the thing. I really like the tail scheme, where you got the yellow with the red stripes on it. And yeah, so a very cool looking fighter. I like the really long nose on this thing. And of course, They are magnetized. I didn't go with the paint just because I was lazy. I thought it would be easier to glue a magnet on, but you can see that they stick to the carriers and everything, so that's very nice. And we've got a few of those. We'll just keep them in a pile there. And then lastly for the French, we have the French strategic bomber. Now you may remember this from my unboxing review. It was a German, like ME something, like a German heavy bomber. But what I ended up doing was chopping off the outward engines, so it's only 2 engines now. And it looks a lot like the French Saab heavy bombers that they had in the opening stages of the invasion of France. So now I've got one of these, and you can see I've got that weird looking engine there. That's just because I accidentally, my knife slipped and cut off the second engine, and I couldn't find it anymore, so I just had to glue on a piece of, like, whatever, piece of junk just to represent that engine. But when it's down on the board, you really won't see it, really notice it. So yeah, another very cool looking aircraft, and again, I really like the French camouflage scheme. So, we just got a few more ships. I guess keeping with the French theme, I painted up some Vichy units. So here's a Vichy French battleship. Not too much different than the normal French battleships. You can see that I just tried to get a darker color on the superstructure, but that's really it. And then also no French flag, just a little Vichy roundel in the back of the thing. And then just some other units like a Vichy aircraft carrier and a Vichy cruiser. So then, getting on with it, we have a Dutch edition. This is the Dutch, I forgot the name of the thing. It starts with an R, but it was basically a Dutch aircraft carrier. Late war, I think it was a converted merchant ship, but I basically painted it up, and you can see that it's a burn class, but I cut off some of the smokestack of the superstructure to get the look of the thing. But yeah, basically this is just here because one, I just had the extra part, and I thought since the Dutch had an aircraft carrier in real life, it'd be kind of cool to paint one up. And you know, I could see this possibly, you know, getting into the war. Maybe America lend-leases the Dutch player an aircraft carrier if you're playing with the Netherlands at War expansion. So yeah, I just, you know, had some free time, might as well just paint one of those up with the spares. So then we've got some new German units. Here we have the Deutschland class battleship, and I'm using it as a coastal defense ship. So very cool looking ship. I've always liked these things. I think they were the Siegfried class battleships. Yeah, so you can see I got the gray tip to represent a coastal defense ship, and all the little cool little landing boats and everything on the sides of the thing. Had a lot of those. So yeah, very cool looking ship, and we've got 2 of those. So I think Germany starts with 1, but you know, another one's good because in case they align someone that has a coastal defense ship, they've got a second one to spare. And then lastly for the Germans, we have another Richelieu. Again, since these come in packs of 5, got to know how to split them up. So, you know, we've got some for the French for their starting setup, Vichy in case one of them goes Vichy, and then in case one of these ships aligns to the Germans, I thought, you know, like I said, I really like the sculpt of this thing. So, you know, if one of them aligns to the Germans, we've got this very cool looking German camouflage Richelieu. So another very cool looking unit. And yeah, so again, the same kind of paint style as everything else, except now with the Germans we got this dark gray with the cool little battleship stripes on the thing, and then a iron cross on the back of it. But yeah, a very cool looking imposing ship that I hope one of these battleships flips to German next game, because I really want to see this thing on the board. And then lastly, for this little short painted review, we've got the Russian battleship Sovietsky Soyuz. This thing is another pretty cool looking ship. Not my favorite, just because you know, it doesn't have too much going on with it, or too much that's kind of out of the ordinary. It's kind of just your standard. You think of a big battleship, and you know, this is what you get. But A very cool looking ship, and as many of you know, and I'll leave a link in the description below to my custom expansion, Stalin's Mega Fleet, which I think is a very cool expansion set that I did play with once, but I hope to play with it again because it adds just kind of like a goofy but cool, you know, theme to the game where if Russia decided to build a navy. So that's why I got this heavy battleship, because two of the schemes in that allow Russia to build a battleship, and I think a light carrier and a aircraft carrier in another one. So yeah, now we've got a really cool looking Russian battleship that's unique and can be built if using the Russian Mega Fleet expansion. And again, I'll leave a link in the description below, maybe pin the video right up here, and you can check that expansion out too. So yeah. And that is it for this little short review. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you guys again. Remember to leave a like on the video, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Cobra, out.